latest edition of Miami Hurricanes Talk with Danny, presented by Lorraine Sports. I am live from McDivitt's here in Tampa, and my guest this week is Joey Johnston. Joey Johnston is a native of Tampa. He's covered USF since probably 1981.
That's when I went to school at USF, but I've been, observing the program since then and a little bit before.
Yes. Joe, he's senior writer for the Tampa Tribune. When you name all the big events this man has done, he's done it all. Now, I apologize for the things if we couldn't get the show going, but listen, he's covered tennis. He's won the best sports events coverage 3 times. When you talk about a man who's covered it all, this man has done it. And I noticed he's wrote about 4 books. One is called Tales from the Buck Sidelines. Can you tell us about that one?
Well, that came out after the Bucks won their first Super Bowl, and it was sort of a history of the Buccaneer franchise, which had a lot of craziness back in the beginning when the Bucks lost their first 26 games. So a lot of lowlights, but certainly some highlights as well. So it was a great history book for the Buccaneers that led up right into the John Gruden years.
Yep, and that was there. And also Tampa Bay. Of course, Tom Brady. You co-wrote that with Rondé Barber and Greg Allman.
Yes.
What was that book? That book was, of course, about Tom Brady.
Was about the 2020 football season, the COVID season, which ended up with the Bucks winning the Super Bowl in Raymond James Stadium. So that was an incredibly special season, unusual season, of course, with the COVID and not all the fans able to go. But it exclusively talked about everything that happened, and that was Tom Brady's first year in Tampa Bay. So a lot of crazy things happened that year, of course, for Buccaneer fans. So the Buccaneers, I grew up here. I saw all those 26 losses, and who knew that I would live to see 2 Super Bowl champions, but I have.
Wow, quite a run. The Silver Stampede is an interesting one. In 2021, you wrote that book, 25 years of USF football, now going like 28 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah, and again, a history book that talked about USF's football program from its infancy. People watching, particularly the Hurricane fans, may know or may not know that when USF was founded in the 50s, they didn't have football right away. They didn't have football for a long time, and it wasn't until the 90s that the USF decided to pursue a college football team, and it debuted in 1997. But it's a story of not only how that came about, why they didn't have football, all the things that happened in the infancy of the program. It grew very fast, and the program grew to the point where it had incredible wins over Auburn and Notre Dame and Florida State and Miami. And it really grew about as fast as you possibly could think of any program in the country. So it's a very unique history, and obviously there's been some downtimes in recent years, but now it looks like the Bulls program is on the way back up, and to maybe a different level of prominence.
Yeah, Alex Golesh. People have been very bullish on Alex Golesh. Tell us a little bit what mentality Alex Golesh brings to that program.
Well, Alex Golesh brings an aggressive mentality more than anything. He is an offensive coach by trade. He likes up-tempo. They go very, very fast. If Hurricane fans who haven't seen USF, you're going to see a team that gets to the line, runs a play, gets to the line, runs a play over and over and over. I mean, they go – you've seen fast. This is hyper-fast, the way they like to play. So Alex Golesh is that offensively. He's pretty fearless, and he believes that his mission is to get USF football as good as it can be, as fast as it can be. He doesn't put any limits or any definition on that, but he believes the program can be very prosperous and winning championships. And as soon as this year, win a conference championship. Last year, after some really struggling seasons, they went 7-6 and beat Syracuse 45-0 in the bowl game.
Yeah.
So that was a great turnaround season.
And another book I noticed before we get to the football, the Golden Bulls, with the prominence of women's basketball today with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, etc. Yeah. Tell us about the 50 seasons that you wrote about the Golden Bulls.
Well, it's again a history book of the USF women's basketball program, which most of the history has been written by their coach Jose Fernandez, who is a native of Miami, who came up from Miami and has built a program that has been incredibly prosperous, winning games against nationally ranked teams. Probably the most successful team on USF's campus in any sport, and it's coincided nicely with, as you mentioned, the prosperity of women's basketball as a whole. And ironically enough, we have the women's Final Four in Tampa this year.
Yeah.
In 2025 of March and April. So USF again has a very good team that should get into the NCAA tournament and maybe do some damage. So women's basketball has come a long way, but it's mostly come a long way through Jose Fernandez, who again is a very familiar face to people who are familiar with the sports scene down in Miami.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get to last week now. First of all, when I saw USF against Alabama, I said when the season started this was going to be a dangerous opponent for Miami to face on Saturday night. After seeing that Bama game, hey, I believe it. 206 yards rushing against that vaunted Bama defense. The reason they were in that game because of 3 turnovers.
Yeah. Yeah, and the funny thing is about it is if you didn't watch the game and you just saw the score, which ended up being 42-16, you think, okay, that sounds about right. It was no way that kind of game through 3.5 quarters. It was a 1-point game going into the fourth quarter, and USF had cut the Alabama lead to 21-16 with about 6 minutes to go. From that point, Alabama scored 3 quick touchdowns, and the roof caved in, and the margin was crazy. But USF did give a very good game to Alabama. It left a lot of points on the field, particularly in the first half. There were 3 long pass plays where the receiver had broken wide open, and the quarterback, Byron Brown, could not connect. He overthrew, underthrew, didn't throw, straight line. So they did miss some opportunities in that game. But one thing that was very encouraging for USF fans is the pressure that they put on Jalen Milroe, the quarterback. They sacked him 3 times. They probably had half a dozen other times where Jalen had to duck out of there or throw the ball away. So that is one thing they've been really trying to get for the past few years, and it looks like they do have a decent pass rush and some ability to put the pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Now, Byron Brown last week against Southern Miss, 19 for 29, 193, 2 touchdowns. When I look at Byron Brown, I look at Kelly Joyner, the running back, and Naquan Wright. To me, the one that scares me the most, Joey, is definitely Kelly Joyner, because he's the kind of guy that could really break one, and he's very small, but he can go right through holes pretty quick. Talk about them a little bit.
Well, the running game last week was probably about as effective as we've seen from USF in not years, really. They controlled the clock. They had, first of all, they scored 7 touchdowns, and 4 of those drives were drives of 14, 12, 11, and 8 plays. I mean, not necessarily the way they play a lot of times because they play quick, but this game they controlled the clock. They actually won the time possession, and they imposed their will on Southern Miss and really ran them into the ground.
Yeah.
And they have now 3 guys that they all trust: Kelly Joyner, Naquan Wright, and Teron Keith, who is a transfer.
Yeah.
But they rotate these guys and keep them fresh, and any one of these guys is good enough to be a number 1 ball carrier, including Kelly Joyner. Kelly Joyner is in his 6th year at USF.
Yeah.
He's 26 years old. He's been through all kinds of craziness with injuries and adversity, a lot of losses.
Yeah.
But he appears to be coming into his own. He is probably the best breakaway threat of the 3, and he did break away last week. He scored on runs of 43 and 50 yards against Southern Miss. So Naquan Wright is more of a bulldozer. He former Florida Gator, but a tough guy that was their leading rusher as a running back last year. Teron Keith is one of those kind of do-everything backs. He can run inside, run outside, catch passes, really versatile, and he's really kind of complemented the whole trio and made it even better.
369 yards rushing last week for that running game. 6.9 yards per play on offense, 562 total offense, 81 total plays to 61 for Southern Miss. You were right when they say hyper fast. You're not kidding when they say 81 plays for the whole game.
Yeah, they again, most everybody in the country, is in a shotgun, up tempo.
Yeah.
It's not unusual to play fast, but USF plays unusually fast.
Yeah.
They take it up a notch, almost where it's uncomfortable. If you look away, you're going to miss something.
Yeah.
They go that fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And two things of that is, the defense can get very tired if the offense is clicking with that kind of pace. But this is a thing since Alex Golich has been there. They have worked on conditioning and particularly with the linemen. So these guys are accustomed to that. Whereas on the other side, the opponents sometimes, especially the big guys, they're not, and they get gassed.
Yeah.
So, and that's what they want. They want to catch guys in mismatches, and catch guys who are catching their breath and try to hit them when they're a little bit fatigued. So if USF is clicking with that pace, they can be tough to stop.
Yeah, and to that point, how is USF this week in practices preparing for a physical Miami defense that Lance Guidry is going to throw at them?
I think the whole key to it is their ability to block and protect Byron Brown and give Byron Brown an opportunity to get a second or two to look down the field and throw. If Byron Brown is running for his life, USF is in a world of problems. And conversely, I think that's Miami's key too, because what looks like a really aggressive USF defense, if they can get to Cam Ward, that's not what the Hurricanes want. So I think if you can simply break this down, both offensive lines are probably the key elements of the game on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. Now look at the defense. Like you said pretty much everything there. To me, I think for Miami to win is basically Cam Ward beat Cam Ward. Again, how do you prepare? Like, it's going to be a raucous crowd. Will the crowd be a difference in this game?
It should. They expect about 60,000 people. 15,000 of those will be students, which is the most they've ever had. I'm sure there'll be Miami fans as well. How many I don't know, but it's a night game. It's going to be loud and crazy. If it's a back and forth competitive game, the crowd will definitely be a factor. And USF is counting on a home crowd to help push them through the tough times of the game for sure. And Raymond James, pack it out. It can be a crazy den. Crazy den.
Yes, especially when you see the Bucks, you understand why.
Yep.
Let me go another thing here. Keys to the game. Give me your keys for a USF win, and I'll give you the keys for a Miami win.
Well, I think number one, if USF can do what it did against Southern Miss, which is run the ball and control the clock, I think that's a big key. That will open everything up if they can move the chains and be in 3rd and 2 instead of 3rd and 8. That's going to change the whole way USF plays the game. So the ability to run the ball is huge. The other one, which we alluded to earlier, protecting Byron Brown. He's taken 9 sacks in 3 games, which doesn't sound like maybe a lot, but it's more than they want. He took 4 sacks against Southern Miss. Part of it is he's a great runner as a quarterback, and he's gotten better at this. But it boils down to him making the snap judgment of when to run and when not to run, when to stay in the pocket and when he's got to take off. And sometimes that's difficult if you have a great defense that's crashing in around him. He's going to get happy feet and get out of there. So Byron Brown's ability to have a little more time in the pocket is going to be huge. So again, it boils down to that offensive line and the blocking. If it's not good and Miami defense is crashing in, it's going to be a tough night for USF. But if USF can move the ball effectively, then they have a chance to maybe do some damage to Miami.
What tape did they look? What did USF watch? Did they watch the Florida tape to an extent on how they ran outside? And then that's how I thought Florida was very effective when they ran to the outside.
Yeah, of course they watched all of that, and I think they watched a lot of Washington State tape on Cam Ward to get a better feel for him. I don't know that Cam Ward has been incredibly tested yet. Florida was a big game, but how good are the Gators? I don't know if we know that yet. And FAMU and Ball State, maybe not the greatest test in the world for Miami. So I think in USF's mind, at least, they might think, well, we might be the best chance to really, test Cam Ward for the first time as a Hurricane. I know last year at Washington State, I don't think their offensive line was great, but Cam Ward was sacked quite a bit, and he fumbled the ball a little bit. So I think USF is hoping that if they can get the necessary pressure, maybe they can create some turnovers or create some pressures. But that's easier said than done against the Miami offensive line.
Yeah, that offensive line I don't think it's allowed us. Maybe won a couple sacks this year, but this is a team that is very good and it's very loaded. For Miami to win, I think the thing Miami has to do is do what it's done. Protect Cam Ward, get that physical running game going, and do not turn the ball over. When Bama was in that game because they turned it over 3 times.
Yeah.
If Miami doesn't turn the ball over, Miami wins comfortably.
Right. And the other thing is the Alabama game. There were a lot of penalties, and Jalen Milroe had a 74-yard touchdown called back, and there were some other big plays for Alabama that got called back. So the mistakes, the turnovers, and the penalties on both sides are going to be big. If USF and or Miami can play clean games, and that's going to be obviously to their advantage. Probably more important for USF to do that. Um, the ability to create turnovers has been a strength for USF so far in the early season, and it's not like it's like these random fumbles that just come to them. I mean, they have created these turnovers with hard-hitting defense. So that appears to be another way that they've really improved is they've got new players on defense and they're very aggressive and they're getting after it and they're causing these fumbles. So the turnover margin has been a major plus for USF. Obviously, if they can get it going in a good direction Saturday night, that's a big, big thing that they can use to possibly upset the Hurricanes.
Yeah, I think the one thing we have to do is basically protect Ward. We know the one thing what concerns me about USF is, of course, the running game. We have got Miami must stop the run, and if they do that, again, Miami wins comfortably.
Yeah, you might be right, but USF is hopeful of running the ball, and also they do have some very talented receivers. Haven't really seen much of them as yet. Their best receiver is Sean Atkins.
Yes, I was talking about
he's a former walk-on, a little smallish.
Isn't he their punter too, if I'm not mistaken?
He punt returner.
Yeah.
But Sean Atkins is going to be a factor in the game. They have other guys who can break it to a higher degree of Sean Atkins, but we haven't really seen that aspect of USF's game as well. If they can get behind the defense of Miami somehow, Byron Brown can get it out there, and that could be a major plus for USF as well.
That's right. Okay, Joey, I'm going to get you out of here on this. Give me prediction for Saturday night's game.
Wow, I think logically I have to side with Miami, but I think it's going to be a great game. So I see something like 31-24 margin with you. I think USF will move the ball, will score, but the ability to shut down Cam Ward, if they don't get pressure on him, can't do it. So that's the bottom line to me is you've got to get Cam Ward off his spot, get him moving around, and try to create some havoc. If you allow him enough time to pass, it's going to be a long night for USF.
Joey, I'm going to say 2 things. One, Miami cannot turn the ball over. Like Alabama did. They did that 3 times. Cam Ward has to be Cam Ward. Can USF stop the run? Because Miami's going to come with a ton of backs. Martinez, Fletcher, Lyle, Allen, Chris Johnston.
I think it's going to be, if you match up Miami against USF on the line, it's a mismatch in size. USF does not match up with the girth of the Miami offensive line. What they do have is depth on the defense, and they have a really, really good defensive coordinator named Todd Orlando that is excellent at confusing the quarterback, coming with the exotic blitzes, and using the surprise. So I have a feeling he's going to really dial some interesting things up for Cam Ward, and it's just a matter of can Cam Ward adjust. You think he probably could. He started 47 games in college, and he has full respect of the USF defensive staff. But they're going to bring everything they've got to Cam Ward and hope they can throw him off a bit. And if they can, then that's going to open up a possibility of USF doing well in the game.
Yeah, I say it's going to be tough. I said when the season started, this would be Miami's toughest game before ACC play starts. I have no reason to change that now. It's going to be a war. It's going to be a 4-quarter war.
Yeah.
But I think in the end, I think Miami makes just enough plays, and they win late. And I think it's going to come down really to the 4th quarter. But I think in the end, too much Miami, too much depth, too much experience on that O-line, and Cam Ward in big moments will come up big in this game. I say Canes 35, USF 28.
Wow, that sounds like a good game.
Very
35-28.
So we're gonna wrap up here. Listen, by the way, if you want to join, go to Kingmakers on tomorrow for his on Saturday for his pregame tailgate. He's gonna have a lot of good people there. 3707 West Carmen in Tampa. Please give him a support. And by the way, if you like what you see, please give a thumbs up. Please like and subscribe. You could donate via Cash App and PayPal. That link is in the description. I want to thank Joey Johnston for coming on today. Great game. Enjoy the game Saturday night. I will be at Raymond James Stadium Saturday night for the game. And this concludes this podcast presented by Lorraine Sports. Please give these guys, Canes Connection, a shout out. Please go to their website at canesconnection.com and join there. And the t-shirts, go to Shopify with Lorraine Sports, her page. I'll put that in the description as well. And let's order these things, man. And we'll see you Saturday night. I'll be back post-game. I'll be back at halftime of the game Saturday night at Raymond James Stadium. And, of course, podcast episode will drop Sunday morning at 8 o'clock Eastern. Thank you for all for coming in and watching this. Take care. God bless you. Go Canes.